I want to make it abundantly clear that I do not promote or support harassment of any person mentioned in this video. Please do not seek out their social medias and send them any negativity. Some people have come to me with concerns about this video as they state that they believe Ninh is in a bad space mentally, and therefore Ninh, should this video pop up for you and you're not in the place to receive good faith criticism, then I discourage you from watching yourself. I myself am a survivor of CSA and I do have a PTSD diagnosis. Mental illness does not make you immune from criticism. Right, so a while back I did a live stream on Nan, a YouTuber going under the name Team Pinata. I wanted to make a video specifically on their partner, Ninh, because in that live stream, which is now, by the way, uploaded to my channel, which I've clipped a lot of the filler content out of, but it is still quite long, I brought up problems that I had with Ninh specifically, both in and out of the situation that I was reporting on in regards to Nan. And I will bring up that situation that I was live streaming about now, because otherwise people might get confused. Nan was exposed for drawing CP, which is suggested erotic or inappropriate images of children. Nan did an Instagram live where they attempted to apologise and explain their actions, but that fell flat and they left the internet. Later on down the line, they posted on their YouTube community tab a really long post trying to apologise for everything and claimed that they wanted to return to their channel. This apology was really bad, and later on in the video you'll be seeing some of the other d.i.d YouTubers' responses to that post. They then would go on to post again stating that they didn't think it was right for them to return. Honestly, something they shouldn't have attempted to do in the first place. I do have videos reading both of those posts. Actually, I think there were a total of 3, but that's the gist of it. Ever since, people have framed Ninh as a person who was a victim and unaware of their partner's actions and would be completely dissociating themselves, ironically, from them. However, there are other problems I have with Ninh, not only how she responded to this situation and how she is allegedly currently dealing with it, seeing as she may well still be in a relationship with Nan after all of this, but other things that she has said or done throughout her own YouTube career. And I think it's important to define some terms and bring up some names that we will see throughout this video so no one is confused. The first term, of course, is d.i.d, Dissociative Identity Disorder, which I will be explaining in a super dumbed down way so everyone can kind of grasp the idea. Dissociative Identity Disorder, shortened to d.i.d, is a dissociative disorder that causes a person's identity to split into 2 or more alters due to childhood trauma. When a child is experiencing trauma, they may dissociate or disconnect from their surroundings and self to deal with it. An alter may be created if a child has a high ability to dissociate and a lack of a support base. That alter will hold the trauma memories for them so the child can survive unaware of their trauma. Depending on what the child's life, perceptions, and understanding of the world is like, this can create a wide range of personality states that have different personalities, opinions, and even within their own mind different genders, sexualities, etc. For example, if a girl is being mistreated, they may believe that boys are stronger and could handle this, which could produce a male alter. While an alter is controlling the body, they are fronting. Different scenarios can create many different types of alter, and the one who fronts the most is the host. During dissociation, there is memory loss, an amnesic barrier, which prevents other alters within the system who aren't currently fronting from recalling certain memories. Let's use our previous example. A girl is undergoing something that they believe a boy would more likely be able to handle, therefore creating a boy alter. The boy is then brought to the front when this situation triggers them to, and the girl won't remember anything that happened while the boy is fronting. Other alters in the system, if there are 2 or more, may also not be able to remember what the boy experienced. System. A person with d.i.d is part of a system, one of many. System responsibility. The notion that when one alter does or says anything, all alters are responsible for the consequences, whether or not they were fronting. Over time, a person with d.i.d may be able to communicate with their alters and be co-con, co-conscious, meaning that while one alter is fronting, they can hear the thoughts of the other alters, and the other alters can see what the other person who is fronting is doing, like looking through a window. Some people with DID report having an inner world, an abstract creation of the mind to keep alters in while they are not fronting. Integration. This happens when two or more alters combine into a new alter, meaning both alters are ready to handle the different memories each one has. Ninh was previously Chloe and Nina, but those two have now integrated. A little, which is a child alter. Some define this as being 15 years or under, and others define it as being 12 years or under, but generally a child alter, a little, is a minor. So let's go on to some people that we may hear of in this video. DissociaDID is a d.i.d. system hosted by Ninh. Some members of the d.i.d. system mentioned are Nina, a previous sexual protector who integrated with Chloe, the previous host of the d.i.d. system, to become Ninh. Jade, a protector and gatekeeper. A gatekeeper has the role of ensuring that everyone in the system has access to things that they should be responsible for. For example, Nina previously had the responsibility to hold memories of sexual trauma. Another one mentioned is Omega, a ghost alter. Systems in the d.i.d. community. So there is DissociaDID, Ninh, previously Chloe, Team Pinata, also known as TP for short, Nan, Fragmented Psyche, also known as FP, Multiplicity in Me, Entropy System, also known as Entropy, Axolotls in a Trench Coat, shortened to AXO, Bobo and Co. Really sorry if I missed out any other systems or any other hosts that I should have mentioned. These are the ones that I believe come up most in the video you're about to watch, and I wanted to make sure people knew who they were. Before we go into this section of the video, I want to make it abundantly clear that I am not saying Ninh does not have d.i.d. My problem is that the Pottergate Centre is being presented as a credible and reliable resource for people with d.i.d. While I'm sure the people who work there have the best intentions and access to some great resources to help people with d.i.d, it is not necessarily medically recognized, not necessarily able to diagnose people, which we will get onto shortly. The Pottergate Centre in Norwich is a counsellor for those with dissociative identity disorder. It claims to offer assessments and treatments for those living with the disorder. Ninh herself states that she was diagnosed by Dr. Remy Aquarone, and Jade, I believe, states it in one of her videos.
We were diagnosed by Dr. Remy Aquarone of the Pottergate Centre. He runs and directs the treatment centre for dissociation and trauma survivors. He's been doing this for very many years and leads many organisations and has led many organisations specifically dealing with trauma and d.i.d, not just in the UK but throughout Europe. It is very unlikely that us, a system collectively with zero ability to act, has been able to pull the wool over the eyes of one of the most influential and intelligent people in this whole community.
Here's a list of the services that the Pottergate Centre offer. Assessment, a full psychiatric and dissociative assessment undertaking using DES, Dissociative Experience Scale, SDQ-20, Somatoform Dissociation Questionnaire, and SCIDD, Structured Clinical Interview for DSM-IV Dissociative Disorders. A detailed report is sent that will include a recommended treatment plan. I can see two glaring issues with this. The first is the DES and the SDQ-20, which are both self-reports. At least on a research basis, data collected by self-report questionnaires are highly scrutinised because they contain several different biases. There's the researcher bias, wherein a participant will answer as to how they believe the researcher wants them to answer, and social desirability bias, wherein a person may be too shy or embarrassed to admit certain things. They don't want to appear quote-unquote crazy. These are all subconscious biases that we hold when we're reporting ourselves, and therefore being in a treatment setting may or may not impact the fact that somebody may need to answer honestly. And then the third one, the structured clinical interview, is inherently flawed based on the people who are conducting that interview. The people who are conducting the interview are those such as Dr. Remy himself, who is a psychoanalytic therapist. If you don't know, therapists and counsellors, which is what the entirety of the Pottergate Centre is labelled as, are not qualified to diagnose. They can only give you a recommendation for a diagnosis. This problem is exacerbated by the fact that Dr. Remy himself is not medically qualified. I will actually shout out Kiwi Farms for this next little nugget because they found it whereas I could not. So whatever they think of me or this video, I'm very appreciative of the information you managed to put together. One user, Comrade, managed to find a book by Catherine Mayer, Abused by Therapy, How Searching for Childhood Trauma Can Damage Adult Lives, wherein it details that the Pottergate Centre hands out free questionnaires, and those who score highly are invited to come in for paid assessments. Apparently, 90% of those people who do the paid assessments will end up with a diagnosis. However, only 60% of those will actually have d.i.d. I'm not sure how much exactly this paid assessment is. The website doesn't actually say on the Pottergate Centre, but Chloe had a GoFundMe claiming that the diagnosis alone would cost £600, and I've seen the figure £2,000 come up quite a bit. She went by the name Chloe back then, so if I say Chloe, I mean Ninh. They're the same person. So to sum up, Dr. Remy isn't actually qualified to diagnose people. Only 60% of their diagnoses are accurate, and they also have a shop in which you can get 3 different books, the cheapest at £13 and the 2 others at the very, very, very low price of £60 to £61 each. There are 2 possibilities here. 1, Ninh was unaware of this being a non-diagnosis and a recommendation that is only 60% accurate, or 2, they wanted a fast track to their own self-diagnosis because in the video wherein Ninh addresses Trish, she says she doesn't actually have a problem with self-diagnosis.
So, especially if you're self-diagnosing, which Trish has said she's self-diagnosing herself, that does not make you any less valid. It's very important if you are doing that, and you should only really do that while you are waiting for a diagnosis, or if it's completely impossible for you to get a diagnosis, maybe you can't afford to see a professional, maybe there's no professionals even in your country who will deal with d.i.d.
Right, so the next problem is Nin's claim that she was refused re-entry to university after being diagnosed with dissociative identity disorder. They reaffirm this statement when they say that they had to go under 6 months of therapy and then they could return to university, but again they denied her entry. Slight problem with this, in the United Kingdom we have something called the Equality Act, which means that you can't be discriminated against if you're part of a protected group, and yes, that includes those who are mentally disabled or who have mental disorders. It is against the law to favour candidates entering university if they do not have a mental illness. There are, however, exceptions. In the case in which an individual is perceived to be a harm to themselves or others, a university, to their own discretion, can refuse them entry or re-entry, depending upon the requirements for the course at that university as well. If the university believes that this person would not be able to achieve their very best, they can also refuse them entry or re-entry. Universities do not and should not discriminate based on mental illness. The reasons for this aren't always because of the law and because it's what's right. There are 2 reasons wherein it is completely a selfish motivation by the university. Number 1, why would you refuse somebody who has in fact demonstrated they can gain really good grades, which would up the average of the university, placing them higher on the ranking list and therefore would be more likely to have candidates apply? Which leads to the second reason. They need candidates and people studying there because it makes them money. Why would you refuse a perfectly good candidate with stellar, top of the class grades and who has proven that they can in fact get help and are prepared to study. Unless the university did believe that Ninh was a harm to themselves or others, or that Ninh didn't actually perform as well as she said that she does. If in fact Ninh is telling the truth, then Ninh, it's time to go to court, my friend, because you are the victim of a crime. It is literally against the law, and you could also claim civil compensation for the discrimination that you faced and the lack of education you were able to receive.
Maybe Ninh can't afford to get the legal fees.
Okay, so I became a patron of Ninh for approximately 15 minutes to discover this. Everybody watching this part of the video owes me $1.20. I don't know exactly how many patrons she has, and I don't know what tiers they're on, because she's privated all of that. The community page, however, is relatively active, with the last post being last week, and this post here, her most recent post, has 152 likes. Her lowest tier, the tier I was on for that brief period of time, was $1.20. So herein, those amount of people liking that post are paying at least in total $182. That's a significant amount of money for someone who hasn't posted since April. The poll that she posted in February this year got 1,516 votes. That's a minimum of $1,819. That's assuming that every single person who has pledged to her has only pledged the minimum amount, and you can bet your ass that before all of this drama, she was making a lot more. And of course there's the AdSense, whereas currently she's earning up to $7,000 a month. That's about $9,552 for my American friends. That's not even mentioning the donations she got on her live streams, and Bobo and Co goes on in a Instagram live, which we'll be talking about shortly, to say that at one point Ninh received a donation of $333. People were willing to give this woman hundreds of dollars. People are speculating that Ninh is in the process of taking legal action against the University of Norwich, but I can't find any screenshots of Ninh making that statement. But Ninh, if you are in fact the victim of a crime, you're in a very good position to take legal action. You have the money, and if you don't have the money, you have the position to save up to take legal action. This segment might be quite nitpicky in some people's eyes, but it's very important in mine, because when you're talking about certain mental health conditions, you have to be concise and accurate, and you can't afford to slip up. If I've ever said anything that's inaccurate regarding mental health disorders, I put a pinned comment in the description letting people know, hi, I was wrong about this. In Nin's video, Schizophrenia and Dissociative Identity Disorder, What's the Difference? Debunking d.i.d. episode 9, she says this.
Hallucinations. Hallucinations are hearing or sensing voices that aren't real or aren't really there. This can be things other than just voices, so you could see things that aren't really there, hear things, feel things that aren't really there. And hallucinations are a symptom that can come with dissociative identity disorder, but are very, very integral to a diagnosis of schizophrenia. So somebody with d.i.d. may or may not suffer from hallucinations, but somebody with schizophrenia will definitely suffer from hallucinations.
Ninh in this case is correct in the fact that most people with schizophrenia will experience hallucinations. However, they won't definitely experience them. 70% of people diagnosed with schizophrenia will experience hallucinations. That leaves 30% of people with schizophrenia who do not suffer with hallucinations. A lot of the problems I have with Ninh when she talks about mental health is her experience. And I don't mean her own experiences with mental health, I mean the practical and academic experience she has learning about it. Because she only had a year or two in university, I believe she dropped out either in the first or second year, she doesn't actually have a full qualification in psychology. And the thing is, she speaks like a person who has done 1 or 2 years of a degree in psychology. I myself completed the full 3 years and graduated, and looking back, she talks a lot like my classmates and I did during the first and second years because we thought we knew everything. We had been introduced to this enlightened vision, this brand new scientific way of looking at the world through psychology, and we thought we were the shit. I think this is quite common with freshers. You take 1 semester in a degree and you think you're an expert. But quite honestly, Ninh uses the terminology that is within the psychology degree to make her sound like she knows more than she actually does. Because if she knew more than she actually does, then she wouldn't be speaking about mental illnesses with such definitive claims. The next part are her sources and the studies in which she uses. Now, this is a problem I've actually noted within my own videos. I don't mention the limitations of the studies when bringing them up for support to what I'm talking about. That's my fault. It might be hypocritical of me to bring up this point, and in the future I recognise that I should bring up study limitations when talking about studies in reference to supporting something that I'm attempting to state. While I recognise that in myself, Ninh also doesn't mention the limitations of the studies which she provides for evidence. The first problem is that a lot of these studies are outdated. She uses studies from 1901 and 1985, which are up to 100 years old, 110 years old in one case. Some of these studies still use the outdated and no longer used term of multiple personality disorder and not d.i.d. Some of these studies have the same problem in which I talked about in regards to antisocial personality disorder. There's population invalidity. They're studying people who have already been diagnosed with the disorder. And in many of these older cases, meaning they've already been institutionalized. This is a problem because it doesn't represent the wider population of people with d.i.d. It's the same in regards to people with antisocial personality disorder who are diagnosed in prison. If you diagnose antisocial personality disorder in a person who's already committed a crime, and most of your diagnoses take place in prison, you will come to the conclusion that most people with antisocial personality disorder are criminals, when that's not true. As well as this, she only has 1 actual study linked in her description bar, and the other names under that are mentioned in that study. Meaning, did she actually read the other articles, or did she see their names mentioned and just copied and pasted it into the description without reading it? There's also the added complexity that a lot of these sources are books with other studies in them, meaning if you're a person who's never heard of d.i.d. and wants to go and research it, you're going to have to spend a lot of time reading these books to find all the individual studies, rather than just providing the study itself.
But if people want to learn about something, they should go and research it and take their time.
Yes, but not everybody has that time, and if you want to be understood as deeply as you should be, then you should probably simplify it and get the individual studies. You did the psychology degree, at least a little bit of it, you know you can't just cite whole books. This wouldn't be a problem if Ninh didn't present herself as an intellectual, academic, educational channel, but I can't just walk into my exam and state, "Hello, please look at every single piece of research Pandora has ever done and make that my evidence."
We aren't as professional as we sound.
Brought to you by BetterHelp.
Thank you for sponsoring us, BetterHelp.
Okay, so let's move on to some yikes moments. In her very first video, she has the link to BetterHelp in her description box. Maybe she didn't know about BetterHelp back then, but I thought she was an academic and did her research. Isn't that just a bit ironic? If you're unsure as to why having a BetterHelp affiliate link is a problem, there are plenty of videos out there explaining in depth how bad BetterHelp is and how it is allegedly a scam. But off the top of my head, here are a few problems with BetterHelp. Number 1, the therapists would ghost their clients. They would suddenly cancel appointments or just not show up to appointments. They would charge people when they weren't supposed to be charged. And to top it all off, some of the therapists weren't actually therapists. They were just random people with no qualifications. It's a little sus. But then again, she does have a Patreon, in which apparently perks aren't being fulfilled, allegedly. People aren't getting any content on their channel, that's for sure. Couple all of those things alongside the GoFundMe, it looks like there seems to be a theme of money. Other d.i.d channels have criticised Ninh for sensationalising and glamorising the disorder. I'll link a couple of those below. And then of course there was the time where Ninh and Nan both went to Disneyland, even though the both of them know that they're easily triggered to have their littles start to front around childlike things, which is strange. Now, I'm not saying that people with d.i.d who get triggered easily in positive ways can't go to certain places, but Ninh themselves have stated many times how they want to be protective of their littles and shield them from the internet, but then vlog themselves going all over Disneyland. And it's no secret that the internet absolutely loves the more quote-unquote bizarre things. This isn't my word, this is the general consensus of society. Seeing people switch into littles is not normal. It's not something that everyone does, which makes d.i.d a disorder. So I'm just wondering myself if those videos were there as incentives for people to click and watch. Okay, I've done a lot of talking in this video and I think it's time for other people to get to talk. YouTube Psych Myths has very kindly allowed me to use parts of their video reading out the posts from other d.i.d YouTubers regarding Ninh after the Nan situation. The Nan situation being Nan being exposed for drawing CP and people wondering whether or not Ninh is still with Nan even after all of this. I want to make it clear that all YouTube Psych Myths is doing on this channel is reading out the posts in a clear and concise manner. These clips are all from a video that they posted before this video was made, and their agreement for me to use these clips in my own video does not mean that they advocate, support, or agree with any of my opinions stated.
DissociaDID has a lot of fault and owning up to do, which we have personally tried to talk to them about, and as of today, they've beyond pissed us off at a friendship level. DissociaDID has taken about as much accountability for their actions as Pinata has. We've remained the last big d.i.d YouTuber to remain friends with them, and we decided to remain friends with them because we do see their potential and see them as being young and immature with the ability, if they choose, to grow up and take responsibility, grow and go far beyond where they are right now. However, this takes them making a conscious choice in seeing where they made mistakes, what they did wrong, owning up to it, and being genuine in an apology and learning from their mistakes. Further from this, we are not confident that they are not still in a relationship with Pinata. As time goes on, it's feeling more and more like they are. We are about at our wits' end of continuing a friendship with them, especially after their response to a text today. They may not be acting as Pinata is, but they are defending and continuing a relationship. We've tried to bite our tongue with regards to DissociaDID for the above-mentioned reasons, but we are at a point where we are no longer giving a because people either are or aren't going to learn. Several weeks ago, DissociaDID straight up asked us if we would ever be willing to reconsider being friends with Pinata again. Our response, of course, was a firm no. Absolutely effing not, and it's wildly inappropriate that they even asked us, after everything that occurred on a public and private level. We figured that they were still together when DissociaDID asked us if we would become friends with Pinata again, because why else ask us? We know DissociaDID has feelings towards us, and that's fine. However, not going to stand by people who support and excuse. Because they have suppressed the comment, and now have turned comments off, we will not accept manipulation and gaslighting. This is the comment we attempted to post, which was suppressed. The community you claim is falling apart, partly due to you, was finally starting to heal and rebuild. Thanks for coming back and using the same tactics others use to warp the reality of their victims. It's gravely disrespectful to people who've actually been part of CSEM, dealt with personally, and have a long history with CSA to label something as benign as what Nan drew as CP. As someone who has a long history of CSA, who has photographs taken of them, and experiencing as a minor on several occasions, It's gravely disrespectful to try to manipulate and gaslight people on how their perceptions regarding those drawings should be. As a former friend of yours, I find this post appalling, disrespectful. I meant we would have been living with Nan for a weekend if they hadn't already stepped down. Autumn, the woman running the Entitled to Life event, is an amazingly kind and empathetic person, and wanted us all to have a safe place to discuss how we were feeling about the Nan revelation after everything came to a head. She scheduled a time for us all to discuss our feelings because many of us were triggered and having trouble processing everything on Zoom. Ninh chose not to participate in the Zoom call, only showing up for a minute and saying she hadn't had time to give the Pinata issue any thought because she was preoccupied with her parents being doxxed. Afterward, we were still sorting out our emotions and how to respond publicly in a conference group chat. I'd already responded with a series of tweets, but not everyone had. Ninh tried to shut down the conversation by saying we shouldn't have any discussion about it publicly, and it was better if all of us said nothing. She would later go on to say that the hate some of the rest of us were receiving was the exact same as what happened to Pinata. The exact thing she said over voice message was, quote, "I said once that the same thing that's happened to them is what's happening to you in Fragmented Psyche. They're taking things out of context and twisting it. They're using triggering words and triggering terms and trying to force a reaction out of the community that they know will be confused and hurt and scared." The "I said once" part is referring to me bringing up that they compared my situation to Pinata's, and Ninh saying that she only told me that once. I don't know if they're still together, but Ninh comparing me to Pinata and playing off their actions like it was all a misunderstanding was baffling to me. I hope this clears up the confusion. I'm happy to elaborate more. I just want to make sure everyone's information is accurate as it can be. I only know my side of the story, but I was pretty closely tied to all of this.
Ninh, themselves, according to the people closest to them, is still defending and supporting somebody who drew CP and gaslit their audience. People also speculate that Ninh had a hand in writing Team Pinata's intended comeback post because some of the language within that post was in British English. Later on, Nan themselves would go in to edit the post at the bottom stating that a British trauma expert helped them with it. A British trauma expert, possibly referring to Ninh, can't confirm or deny, but it sounds really shady. For the next part of this segment, I will be playing clips from a live stream of Bobo and Co explaining from their perspective the dynamic between themselves and Ninh. I cannot play the entire stream, but it is linked down below for anyone who wishes to view the entire hour-long video.
This is obviously about Ninh. This is obviously about... It's not really about Pinata, it's about Ninh mainly. Because she was my best friend, as a lot of people know. I've always felt really scared to speak about it, you know, and now that I've seen that it's okay, now that I've seen that other people have, you know, entropy and FP and, well, and multiplicity in me, and anybody who has spoken out, it's helped them. So I can only follow and hope for the same. So me and Chloe met through my YouTube comment. She started off as a fan of me, you know, and she loved what I was doing. It was all this and that, you know, she buttered me up. I mentioned I was going to this d.i.d sleepover, and she wanted to come, and I asked the others, can I bring her, you know, here's her channel, she's just started out, can I bring her too? So yeah, she came. I'm just trying to think. So there was a tea party. At the tea party, she got triggered and switched and freaked out, and it was Omega. So I took her out, you know, I wanted to calm her down, and she starts to fall deeper into a flashback or something, and she starts wailing and sobbing, and she starts clawing at me. And she's doing this to me, she's grabbing at me, she's screaming that she can't breathe in my face. She then starts scratching her neck. And I already have trauma with that sort of thing. I eventually calmed her down and she switched. And I had to just like put on a brave face, you know? And just act like nothing happened. And she acted like nothing happened. And, you know, in her videos, she was like, I was triggered at the tea party.
So Ninh, a person who advocates system responsibility and who recalled their triggering at the party, never reached out and apologised to Bobo. They remembered they were triggered, they knew they were triggered, but they didn't ever say sorry to her.
Everything just goes to normal, you know. Everyone's fine. And then the live streams and the thing with Axos happened. We do the live streams, you know. I didn't see anything happening. I can't vouch for what was happening at all, you know, during the live streams. After the live streams, we'd all been sat there for like 2 hours. We were all very dissociated. We were all very tired. And all of us kind of got up in pairs and wandered off. So me and Casey go into the kitchen. Axos and Chloe are left alone in the living room. I then go upstairs like a little while later. I don't hear anything. I don't hear much anyway. I hear Chloe storm off. That's all I hear. It's kind of like a bit of a noise and then Chloe storms off. So I wander upstairs and I'm stood outside the toilet waiting, and she comes outside and speaks to me. And she says to me, keep me away from Axos. And I said, why? And she said, Kai kept touching me. During the whole live stream, he was touching my legs and coming onto me and whispering in my ear for Nina. And I was like, okay. And then she said, after you left, or after everyone left, he came onto me on the sofa, and it only took Jade coming out and screaming, get off me, for him to finally get off her, which then she got up and ran out. So I was concerned, obviously, and I said, okay, I'll do my best to keep you away from them. And we all just acted like nothing happened. They were laughing, they were still talking. The next day, Chloe got up very early and woke me up and was saying, I want to go home, I need to go now, it's fair. So I drove her to the bus stop really early. I dropped Axos to the bus, you know, and it was a little out at the time, and they missed the bus, and I decided to bring them home. But I'd never felt uncomfortable around them. I'd never thought that they could have ever done that. You know, I really, in my head, thought that it was something that was misinterpreted. Like, I want to emphasize that I felt safe enough to take Axos home with me.
They also accused Axo of something he has since denied. Bobo themselves stated they never saw anything strange happening throughout the live stream, whereas Ninh claimed that Axo was whispering in their ear. I wish I could find this live stream, but I can't seem to find any clips of it, so I can't confirm or deny any of what happened. It's worth noting that Bobo never heard Jade scream, and Ninh claims that Jade had to front and scream at Axo. I also find it quite strange that if you really wanted to be kept away from someone who had tried on something with you that you didn't want, that afterwards you'd be laughing and chatting with them. Bobo also states that she doesn't believe Axos would do something like that and that they felt safe enough around them to take them home again when they missed their bus. She then goes on to state that Ninh planned a trip, and I believe it was to her home. She planned to visit her. But according to her, during that trip, which I think was about 4 or 5 days, she only saw her twice, 2 hours each time. Originally, the plan was for Ninh to stay at Bobo's house, but Ninh announced that they'd booked a hotel room, which is kind of rude. If someone is offering up their home to you and they've said, you can come and stay with me, I wouldn't think, nah, I'm just going to book a hotel room. Staying at your house? Really? And to only see them twice, for about 2 hours each time, when the entire trip was supposed to be you seeing your best friend? That's poor. Bobo states later on that she feels like she was just a tool for live streams and collabs and didn't actually feel like Ninh was there to spend time with her herself. She then said that she went to go and visit Ninh, and during this period of visitation, Ninh would abandon her really early in the night, around 7 or 8 o'clock, and she could hear her watching videos upstairs and laughing while Bobo was left downstairs in the living room on her own. In the morning, Ninh would come downstairs and step over Bobo rather than saying, "Hi, good morning, would you like a cup of tea or anything?" No, she just stepped over her and started squealing and wake Bobo up. The amount of rudeness just bothers me, and maybe it's because I pride myself on being a very good hostess. Back when I'd have loads of friends over at sleepovers, they would sometimes wake up to a 3-course breakfast because I am TMI. No, really, here's a picture of everybody who got up and made a fry-up together, and that was part of the fun, staying over and then cooking together and having a nice breakfast to start the day. Maybe I'm more bothered about this than I should be. When Nan was there, Bobo switched into a little called Layla, who I believe is about 5 or 6 year old, during the night, and became very scared. After managing to text some of Bobo's friends, they suggested they go upstairs to see Ninh for help, because duh, they both have d.i.d, they both know what it's like, Ninh should be able to help. Oh no, instead Nan instantly shoos her out of the bedroom and leads her back downstairs. In fact, I actually think this was Jeremy, who is one of Nan's alters and is part of the Team Pinata system. He doesn't tuck this scared 5 to 6 year old back in bed. They're just like, there's your bed, and then goes back upstairs. Layla then sees a spider later on as a 5 to 6 year old gets scared and goes back. Jeremy comes back downstairs, gets rid of the spider, says, the spider's gone, and then leaves again. Ninh couldn't even be asked to get up and see what was going on at all. Nan couldn't be asked to get Ninh up and explain. There was also an incident when another of Bobo's alters, Toast, was confronted by Nan and Ninh, or their system alters. I'm not sure which alters were present at the time, but they were confronted and basically screamed at to break up with Bobo's partner, even though they were talking to Toast. Toast is a little, in Bobo's eyes. He's 12 years old and he's not in a relationship with Bobo's partner. I'm not sure if any other of the alters are in a relationship with Bobo's partner, but from what I understand, only Bobo is, so it's not his relationship, and he's 12. Early on, I mentioned how Ninh would receive a lot of donations, and Bobo stated themselves that while they, Nan, and Ninh were live streaming, somebody sent in £333, or dollars, but either way, that is a lot of money, because there were 3 of them, 333. Bobo states that when the live stream ended, they all ordered Thai food, and when they had the Thai food, Ninh turned to Bobo and said, "Hi, can you send me £20 for the takeout?" First of all, how much would Bobo have had to order for her portion of that order to equate to £20? Either that, or they decided to order from the most expensive Thai takeout ever, What do? Do they glaze their meat in gold? Are diamonds sprinkled into the rice? I'm very confused. That's 2 to 3 times the amount of my regular takeout. And what made it even more of a slap in the face was that the person who donated the $333 or pounds did so that the three of them could go out or enjoy themselves or get food. That's what they stated in their donation message. So really, that person was donating for that takeout essentially, yet Bobo still had to pay. I don't think Bobo ever stated whether or not Ninh ever treated them to something. However, if Ninh did not, that's misuse of a donation. It stated that that money was supposed to go towards all of them, which means Bobo is owed either £111 or $84. Was Bobo supposed to be paying rent to Ninh while she stayed there for a visit? Am I missing something? But hey, dude who made that donation, if you're just gonna hand out money like that, feel free to donate to this, which will inevitably be on a premiere. I will spend it on whatever you say it is for. I promise. But on a more serious note, she would also go on to state that Ninh would reach out to her in times of need, and obviously she would help her and talk to her because that's what friends are for. But when Bobo did the same to Ninh, she went ignored. Bobo, if you ever watch this video, you deserve better. I swear, you deserve so much better than to just be a tool for somebody to use in their live streams and to tag on Instagram. Bobo, you seem like a really sweet person, and all of your alters also seem like great people. And honestly, if you ever turned up to mine, I would buy you a Chinese. You can have that for free. So, let's recap. We've covered the Pottergate Centre and why I think it's not a really good idea to advocate it to people, especially vulnerable people who don't have a lot of money, because they're going to have to scrounge to try and get an invitation to have that assessment. We talked about the University of Norwich, and if what she says happened, then there should be a case for this because it's a crime, and I haven't seen any evidence that this has been reported as such. I also went on to talk about some misinformation that she spreads and how I believe she uses, quite frankly, layman's terms in psychology to sound smarter than she is. We talked about the real Ninh, wherein I mentioned the BetterHelp sponsorship right from the beginning of her channel. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think Ninh has actually ever made a statement on BetterHelp. Am I wrong? If I am, please link me to the post. I went on to show YouTube psych myths and them reading the posts that other d.i.d. YouTubers have made responding to Ninh and how they can no longer be friends with or associate with them. And I highlighted Bobo and Co and her story about how Ninh treats people, or at least treated her. I think these are all relevant points to bring up because Ninh has hurt people. She hurt people when she promoted the idea that the Pottergate Centre is some kind of utopia for people with d.i.d, either knowingly or unknowingly. Knowingly, in that case, would be disingenuous and really bad for people who are desperate for a diagnosis, and unknowingly would also be bad because you didn't do your own due diligence with your own mental health and then went on to spread that notion with other people. Ninh hurt people when she promoted better health as a reliable and credible source of mental health recovery and treatment. Ninh hurts people when she hints and suggests that they should forgive and rekindle their friendship with a known undesirable, which is highly inappropriate and uncomfortable. Ninh hurts people like Bobo and Co when she treats them like a tool for live streams and collabs and doesn't actually seem to care for them as a person at all and literally steps over them. So when people ask me when I make videos on seemingly innocent people like Becky J. Brown and Ninh, why are you doing this? What's the value in this? I'm kind of worried about them. They're in a bad place. My answer is they hurt people. And there is nothing that can excuse or justify that behaviour. Hurting people is not excused by having a mental health condition. You are not immune from criticism by having a mental health condition. I have been as kind as I possibly can in this video, and there are certain things in this video that make me livid, especially the Bobo and Co situation, especially the Nan situation. And I don't believe that having a mental health condition or mental health conditions prevents someone from receiving criticism for the bad things that they have done. So that was my intention for the video, to bring the evidence that is publicly available online and present it to you, and you can make your own conclusions, because I don't hate Ninh. I don't want anyone to think I hate Ninh. Fragmented Psyche echoed my own thoughts in their post. I think she has a lot of growing to do and a lot to own up to, which so far she hasn't done. As this video comes to a close, I want to remind everyone, please do not go and send hate or harassment to Ninh, Nan, or anyone else involved in the situation, anybody who was mentioned. This is my thoughts, my opinions, backed up with evidence, and you are free to go and research for yourself and come to your own conclusion. I want to thank everyone who took the time to watch the video to the very end, and if there is anything that I did get wrong, please correct me in the comments below, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. Bye.